Hello everyone, this is Amber. I would like to give you a presentation about Chinese students' racial and cultural learning in the United States. Before we start, let's look at the agenda together and get an overview of my presentation. There are 6 parts in my presentation, including background information, research questions, literature review, methodology, and findings and conclusion. Let's look at this pie chart. Statista published data about where Americans international students come from, so we are able to get some information of international enrollment in the United States higher education in the 2020 to the 2021 academic year. From the bar chart, we can see there are more than 317,000 Chinese students studying in the United States. Although the number of Chinese students decreases 14.8%, Chinese students are still the main customers of the international study market. So we can see Chinese students take the leading role of international student numbers of different countries, such as India, Korea, and Canada. The United States is famous for its large immigrant population. People are varied from race and culture. However, Chinese people do not have racial differences since all people are of the yellow race. The single social context may cause Chinese students lack intercultural competence. Thus, Chinese students may meet kinds of racial and cultural conflicts and problems, as well as benefits during the period of learning in the United States. There are many studies on American local racial and cultural issues, and it involves how to strengthen intercultural awareness. According to Baker in 2016, although there are many international students studying abroad for higher education, their intercultural exchanges do not help to build their intercultural competence and awareness. In addition, in 2012, Luke also argues foreign language teachers are playing an important role as cultural workers. It means foreign language education is strongly connected to cross-cultural teaching. However, there is relatively little research about the Chinese college students' racial and cultural experience in the United States. In this way, I become curious about Chinese students' racial and cultural learning experience in the United States. So I designed 2 research questions. The first is, what racial or cultural issues do Chinese college students experience in the United States? The second is, how can language teachers guide Chinese students to train intercultural awareness and intercultural competence? To explore these research questions, I read some articles about race, cultural awareness, and cultural competence. Here are some explanations about these key concepts. First is race. In 2015, Lee believes racism is rooted in the surface characteristics and the differences of human beings. And in 2018, Kubota agrees that race is to classify people according to shared physical characteristics. And for culture, according to Lansing-Billings in 2014, culture is an amalgamation of human activity, production, thought, and belief systems. In other words, culture is a combination of human external outputs and internal thinking. For cultural awareness, in 2011, Baker thinks cultural awareness is conscious understanding of the role culture plays in language learning and communication. And for cultural competence, in 2008, Rothman thinks cultural competence is someone having essential knowledge and skills to make cross-cultural interaction. So I read some articles. There are many about 3 topics. The first is race and culture. Kubota thinks that racial discrimination and prejudice is from people's misunderstanding and stereotype on others' racial, ethnic, or cultural characteristics. And for the second topic, race and culture in second language classroom. Universities are regarded to be a micro-society because students different cultures and races. As John said, some social, cultural, and racial factors which influence students in society will also affect their school learning and the academic performance. So John believes that language teachers are required to be sensitive to students' different needs and support them to succeed in cultural learning. And for the last topic, intercultural awareness and intercultural competence in the second language classroom. Muller and Nugent in 2014 point out understanding culture is the essential section and the presupposition of intercultural competence development. They think language classroom is a good place to exchange different cultures and increase students' intercultural knowledge. So to explore this topic, I choose two participants from different schools and compare their racial and cultural learning experience. The first is Siri Liu. She is 24 years old and she is a female. She comes from Xi'an, a northern city in China. She has 6 years abroad learning experience. Currently, she is studying in Georgetown University, and her major is mathematics and statistics. The second participant is Qifan Han. He is 23 years old. He is a male. He comes from Hangzhou, a southern city in China. He has 1 year abroad learning experience. Currently, he is studying in American University, and his major is data science. The instruments I used are two different questionnaire and the interview. The first is the questionnaire I use to collect participants' basic information. It includes external and internal information. For external part, I include current learning and living environment, abroad learning time, university, and major information. For external part, I include age, gender, home city in China information. And here are some interview questions I used in the interview. The first one, how do you understand race and culture? Second, how do you know about American culture and Chinese culture? Number 3, how does American culture impact your study and life? Number 4, how does Chinese culture impact your study and life in an English-speaking country? Number 5, how does race impact your study or life in an English-speaking country? Number 6, what cultural conflicts have you met in or outside class? Number 7, what racial conflicts or unfair racial treatment have you met in or outside class? And the last one, how did your intercultural awareness and intercultural competence improve during the learning in the United States? And here are my findings based on my research questions. The first is my answers for the language students. They have some similarities and differences based on my research, based on my interview results. The first is similarities. We have 4 similar results from these participants. The first is they seldom meet some racial discrimination or unfair experience when they study in the United States. The second, these participants sometimes meet some racial and cultural stereotypes when they learn in the American. And the third one, during the learning period in the United States, their cultural awareness significantly improved. So when they meet others or learning in the different environment, they become more sensitive to different cultures. And the last one, they have broadened horizons of worldview and cultures. And let's see the differences between these participants. When I compare the interview results, I found three differences. The first is different understanding of culture. The second is different intercultural competence. When I compared their results, I found that students who study longer in the United States have a better understanding of culture, and students who have longer learning experience also have a higher intercultural competence. However, the long term of learning experience does not bring students a good attitude or good knowledge for races. I personally think it may because of the gender factors. The student who has longer term experience usually have some stereotype to male. So I think it may because of the gender factors. And then is my findings for the research question 2. They are for language teachers. In general, I have 3 suggestions for language teachers. The first is combine language learning with local culture. International students always take language lessons when they come to universities. This is also the first time they learn and live in a different cultural environment. So language teachers are expected to combine some local culture or school culture to help students adapt to the new environment. The second is provide various intercultural communication opportunities. Language teachers are suggested to provide international students more opportunities to discuss or work with students from different cultures. It will help international students to jump out the comfort zone, which boosts students to develop intercultural awareness and intercultural competence. The last one is provide instructions and suggestions to deal with cultural conflicts. Cultural shocks and conflicts are not avoidable during the interaction with people from different cultures. There might be various cultural issues that happen in the intercultural communication in class. So language teachers are encouraged to provide international students with some advice to handle cultural conflicts and embrace different cultures. So here are my conclusion of my research. Racial and cultural learning in the United States sometimes positively supports Chinese students to build intercultural awareness and develop intercultural competence. However, it usually depends on specific experience and various factors. And there are some limitations of my research. The first is the participants I choose in this research, they come from different backgrounds before learning in the United States. And the second is the participants are studying in different schools and have different learning experience. The third is I only have 2 participants in this research, so it's a small sample size. And the last one is the interview questions are designed by myself, so it may not be very objective. And here are my references. Thank you for your attention to my research and my presentation. Hope you learn a lot from it. Thank you so much.